I'm here in my very hot courtyard today with the episode called Meet the Cork Lord. And I'm sure all of you want to know why the episode is called that, and I'd like to introduce you to my fabulous guest, Neil Foster, who is the owner and co-founder of M.A. Silva Cork and Glass Company. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Susie. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. And I think I can explain the Cork Lord. Today we are focusing on corks. Neil founded the company in the year 2000, correct?
That is right.
So you are on your 20th anniversary?
Absolutely. This year we're going to celebrate 20 years.
Wow. So that's exciting.
It is.
And I love Cork Lord is obvious, but Neil, but Neil is very, very well known in the industry, and I exclusively use his cork, so I'm a huge fan of what you do. And one of the things I am very impressed by with Neil is his background, how he got started in the industry for corks and glass. Can you just give me a brief?
A brief one.
Wow. Very brief one.
Well, hey, pleasure to be here, Susie.
Oh, thank you.
Always good seeing you.
Yeah,
and
it's a pleasure.
Here's to you. So I grew up in Surrey, England, and I represent them in sales in the United States for that, but for the most part the sales were on the West Coast from Washington down to Southern California. And so I remember going for the interview in Hayward and saying, Cork? Yeah, I guess somebody going there on buying trips and identifying what was good to buy from these different suppliers, and then having them shipped back to California and selling them here in the United States to wineries.
Well, first of all, the way you pronounce cork is very charming, so it's perfect. Also, I want to introduce our color commentator today is Chris Boland, our vineyard expert.
The Chris Boland?
The Chris Boland is here.
Only. Here I am.
Now,
here's the peanut gallery.
Yes. So, was the first cork forest you ever went to in Portugal? And
It was.
And was it memorable?
Well, actually, I take that back. The first cork forest I ever went to, where I used to live in Spain, was a small town called Begur. And the next town over was actually one of the hearts of the cork industry in Spain. It was a town called Palafrugell, and there were many different distributors there. And around that area, there were a lot of cork forests. Unbeknownst to me, because at that time I wasn't focused on cork or had no idea I was going to get into the cork industry. So I knew of it and was exposed to it and had seen cork trees, but it wasn't until I came all the way, half around the world, and within 2 years of getting the new position in the United States, it actually took me back to that very town, which was the neighbor to where I used to live, to conduct some business. But when I really got to know cork, yes, it was in Portugal.
Did you, when you were in the industry and you went back to the cork forest, did it look completely different to you? Like you noticed the bigger picture of cork harvesting and how it worked?
Yeah, so like I say, it was a couple of years before I actually went back to Spain on a cork business trip. But initially, when I first went to Portugal and got to see the harvest and got to see how the manufacturing took place, I started to realize what was behind it and how hands-on a product it was, and how every single. And it gave me a new appreciation for the product, for the industry. And so what was fascinating to eventually go back to that neighboring town where I had spent that much time, and then rediscovering exactly what that industry was all about back there was really quite fascinating.
Well, I actually went to a cork forest in Sardinia.
Okay. Yes, I can.
What's happening? So I went to a cork forest, Chris.
Yeah, I've been there since I've been there.
Sardinia.
Uh-huh.
So
You guys are on Facebook right now.
talking like this?
I'm watching you.
Okay. We don't even have the Needles yet.
So I believe we're on Facebook right now, and we're having a little bit of a technical
glitch.
Who
Technical
cares?
glitch.
All of you on Facebook get to watch us. Who would want to do that for 30
Yeah,
minutes,
hey.
right? So we're talking about cork forest. When I went to Sardinia, it was really sort of odd, or maybe, but the people who were harvesting the cork, I felt like Snow White. They were all little people with big axes. It was magical. I mean, I felt like I was in a fairy tale watching what they do.
Yeah, it's amazing. So it's an artisanal skill, and unfortunately, they're worried that the younger generations aren't going to adopt the same trade and become cork harvesters. And so it's all manual harvesting.
It's hard work, isn't
It's
it?
very hard work. So they climb the trees like monkeys. They're very agile. They get up into the highest limbs of the tree where they feel it's beneficial to harvest the cork wood. And they use an axe, and they make sure that they don't go any deeper than they need to into the cork. So that if they go too deep with the axe, then they can injure the tree. They can go into the cambium layer and obviously start to kill the tree. So it's a very careful process. I think we have some footage there of them actually harvesting a tree with the axe that they use. And these teams of harvesters travel from forest to forest depending on where they're needed to do the next harvest.
Wow.
And
So
after...
are they almost like migrant workers, but they specialize in cork?
Yeah, so for the time between May and August when cork harvesting is going on, they need the ideal humidity between the cork trunk and the cork wood, so that the cork wood comes off in big pieces rather than breaks off because it's hard, it's still adhering to the trunk.
Wow.
And so, and then other times of year they're working in other agricultural areas with different products. But for that period, it's a very highly paid job because they have the skill to be able to extract the cork wood.
I'm just curious, what other products do they work with?
Well, in Portugal, they have a lot of pine trees, so they're
still,
harvesting
so
pine.
they're still in a tree environment.
Yeah,
though.
whether it's
Wow.
tree or whether it's other types of agriculture that they dedicate themselves all year. And then they come back to their specialty, which is the May through August cork harvesting. So.
And my understanding, I apologize, I should have checked my facts, but does a cork tree get harvested every 7 years?
Every 9 years.
9 years.
Yes.
Wow.
So it takes about 30 to 40 years for a tree to mature significantly enough for it to produce cork wood, which will be used for natural wine corks. Now, before that, it's harvested and the cork wood can be used for other products. But until about 40 years, it's not suitable for wine corks, and our business just focuses in wine corks. So if you can imagine you wanted to plant a cork orchard here, the first thing is the price of the land, then the 40 years to wait for the trees for your first harvest, and then you have to wait 9 more years before you can harvest again. And it's regulated by the government so that they don't mistreat the trees and harvest early, and so it's very regulated.
So Chris, I bet doesn't that make the 3 years for a vineyard seem reasonable?
Yeah, it's a lot longer than we'd like to wait for sure. I do have a Facebook fan that wants to ask Neil a question. Should I
Yes.
give that to you?
Yes.
So I have a question from Dirk Diggler, and he asked, I caught a picture on the pan through of your shoes. Where are they? Because they look fabulous.
Well, I'd like to say they were cork shoes, but they're not. So they're from England. They're from Royal Albatross. So I hope that helps. But
Yeah, Dirk says thank you very much.
That's wonderful. I love that. So no, don't show my shoes. They're not fabulous. They're not from that place, he says, with that great accent either. Yeah, I know. Normally golf shoes. So there's one question I get when I talk about corks at winemaker dinners and things like that. People want to know if it hurts the environment in any way for a winery to choose to use natural cork.
Oh, great question. Absolutely not. So I've heard everything from there's a shortage in corks to, you know, can corks be recycled? Well, corks are wood. It couldn't be more sustainable. It couldn't be more earth friendly, biodegradable. You can put them in your green bin. You can put them in your garden. So they're going to decompose just like any other wood product would. That's the beauty of natural cork. Unlike many other closures, they don't have those same qualities or attributes. So really the best closure and the natural closure, how I would describe it is cork has been such a wonderful product that many other products tried to mimic what cork has done for so many years. And we see different plastic corks or screw caps or whatever it may be, and they're all trying to mimic not only being a closure for wine, but also the natural attributes of cork's elasticity and everything else in a sustainable way. So
I was in Napa doing I was actually the moderator for a cork versus screw top conference. And I got a lot of comments from the screw top people that the materials they were using were so advanced, like more advanced than what they were using on the space shuttle, and that they were able to completely control the breathability and the aging of the wine. And I thought to myself, you know, that may be true. I don't mean to be skeptical, but I don't think they're regulated. I don't think, you know, NASA at least is regulated with their materials,
Right.
and I don't think the obviously the screw top industry is not. But do you feel like the ageability is the same as many people claim?
it's an interesting topic, and I'm not sure we have a lot of time to go into the in-depth
And it's just
scientific
yes or no.
facts of that. Yes or no? I don't. I'm the cork lord, so I'm definitely
I'm the cork lord.
I'm definitely
That's right, you're
an
not-
advocate for cork. Its natural properties and its sustainability and greenness and everything it supports, the environment, the forest and everything else, just seems to go so well with the wine industry and what we represent to sustainability in today's world. So just along the lines of sustainability, I think it's the best closure that you can use for your wine. You could argue that some wines can have anything to close the bottle. They can be in a box, they can be in a can. But if we're looking for the experience and for quality, there's nothing like a natural cork.
So Chris, explain, can you briefly explain, because I know you'll do it well, what sustainability means, like in a short, so that people understand.
Sustainability is an attempt to, in our case, farm or make products in a way that's able to be sustained over a long period of time and is responsible both socially, economically, and environmentally.
Very nice.
And I do have another question from Bryce.
Is it about
Bryce
my
wants to
dress?
know what type of cork Selby uses.
M.A. Silva.
Oh, fantastic.
I love natural cork, and I'm a big fan. And I also like, one of my favorite aspects of wine is, you know, we know it's art, science, and nature, but, you know, the history I think is very important and interesting. And I think wine is an experience-based product, and part of the experience is opening the bottle, interacting with the cork, and I just think it's a beautiful thing. So I'm a big fan.
That's a great point that you raised. So in the case of Selby, and you know what you're buying, but let me allow some of your viewers to understand. We have various different wines at various different price points, and some require a high quality cork for a reserve wine, and others require a more cost-conscious wine cork. So we have a full range of different wine corks that serve that high quality, high level, expensive wine, just as that may need some aging, just as we do for a more value quality wine as well. And I think what's important is that the cork industry does serve every range of wines that's out there.
Absolutely.
And there is no shortage of cork. If we didn't plant any more trees, and there's trees being planted, we would have enough cork for the next 100 years. So
now that
there is no
very
shortage.
Interesting. That's an interesting fact, because people are concerned that when they choose a natural product, but we've established that doesn't. harm the environment. in
Well,
any way
some people
whatsoever.
say to me, well, how aren't you cutting down trees to make cork? And no, we're peeling the bark off of the tree and it regenerates itself every 9 years. So we're actually creating an environment that's sustainable. Again, Chris, thank you. It's an environment that we're not cutting down trees. Those forests continue to be there. We're able to continue to harvest corkwood, continue to produce corks, and continue to give to the demand of the growing wine industry. So it's really the perfect product when it comes to the environment.
My next question is, so the product comes from Portugal, correct?
Mhm.
And the product is manufactured here at your facility.
So what we do is the majority of cork today, finished wine corks, comes from Portugal. However, there are forests in Spain and Portugal, with some in small amounts in Italy and Northern Africa, but they're primarily coming from Spain and Portugal, with the manufacturing being focused in Portugal. We import the corks already in cork shapes, cylinders, and then what we do is customize those corks locally with the names of the wineries or the telephone numbers or websites or whatever they want the design on their corks. And then we finish processing those ready for bottling and distribute those to 46 states in the United States, Mexico and Canada, so that they can bottle their wines.
Well,
and I think we have some footage, right, of
you
some
have the
printing with our
manufacturing.
laser printing in our facility there in Sonoma County.
Now, I'm sure you've seen some crazy things on corks. The craziest thing I've ever seen is I knew this small winery decided to put different sayings on each cork.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's crazy. That has to be very labor intensive, and I don't know how they came up with these. I'm teasing a little bit.
It does.
It's him. But it was a fun thing. So when people get the wine or as a gift or however they receive it, then they don't know what the cork is going to say, which is a fun idea.
Yeah, so we have all different requests from customers. One of our fun things that we can do is with the laser technology, we're able to do grayscaling now. So we can actually do an image that looks very three-dimensional on a cork, which is amazing. Before we were limited to one-dimensional ink printing, but with the laser it really brings another dimension to the cork.
So, quick question. What is if you had to say one thing, what is your favorite, what do you think the coolest thing is about a cork?
Well, I
Cork
think,
Lord.
yeah. Well, one of my favorite things about the product is working with the product. It feels like it's alive, so it's a natural product. So
Yeah.
that's one of the inherent beauties of working with natural cork. But what's the end result of the cork is there's so many people that get to pull that cork from a bottle, and it's typically the start of an evening or a celebration or a moment in time, the ceremony that they go through to unveil a wine, the discovery of that wine, that moment in time, and then whether they look at the cork or just go straight to the wine or whatever, but it's a start of an experience, and it's great to be a part of that partnership with the wine to deliver an experience to people, you know.
Well, and I'd even take it one step further in that when people have a fabulous experience that evolves around wine, they always save the cork. And think of that, they're not really going to remember the wine, but that cork is always going to represent you know, the engagement or the wonderful party or whatever. So it's a very romantic aspect of the wine industry.
Yeah, we run across a lot of people that say, oh, I save all my corks and I put the dates on them and the date we had or when we got married or the anniversary or my children's birthday, and it's neat. And we have, you know, I've met people that make crafts from corks once they've pulled them, catalog them, all sorts of different ways that people enjoy the natural cork. Absolutely.
Well, that's a super fun part of it.
Yeah.
I did have one unfortunate experience where some people came in and they said, this Selby bottle of wine cost $800, and they showed me an X-ray of their dog that had eaten a Selby cork, and you could see Selby on the X-ray. It was just at the perfect angle. He said, they didn't know what was wrong, and they took the dog in, and it was a surgery, and it was big. So yes, I think that's the most expensive bottle of wine I have personally sold to someone.
I've never heard that story,
Yes,
but
yes,
that's a good one.
That was a pretty crazy thing. So I think we're getting ready to wrap up, but it's fun talking to you, and I know that you recently bought your own vineyard in Sonoma County. That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. So being involved in the wine industry for over 25 years now, and in Sonoma County for 20 years, it's so beautiful here, and had the opportunity after the fires to buy a property with a vineyard, and just the beauty of living on the vineyard and experiencing the annual evolution of from bare vines to fruit, and being involved in the industry on that side is it's really an amazing process of that you're able to see in your garden, not unlike any other plants as well, as you see your garden grow, but grapevines are really special, and I feel very privileged to have that, and to eventually make some fine wine myself one day from those.
Well, you have some in barrels right now, so that's
I
exciting,
do.
We will look for the Foster family label.
Well, thank you.
So I think, is that our time, Chris? No. Oh, it's not. Oh, he had a question. I thought he was
Fire away,
telling.
Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought he was telling me to wrap it up.
I just wanted to set a rumor, whether this rumor that I've heard is true, but I understand there's like a local legend or rumor, I don't want to call it, but that there's a group of people that actually soak corks, and I wanted to find out if that was
I've
true, that
heard
there's a
about them.
group of cork soakers around that, I don't know, they have like weird practices and things like that.
Oh,
Is
yeah,
that is it true, or is that just a rumor?
Well, actually, I think Saturday Night Live created a group of cork soakers that would participate in soaking corks from time to time. Some even 2 corks at the same time. I've
Really?
heard. Yes,
And
really.
there was massaging of grapes or something?
There's
involved in
massaging
that
of
or something?
grapes and lots of cork soaking. Maybe you know more than I know about that, Chris.
I've just heard. It's a rumor. That's what I'm
A
saying.
rumor.
Yeah.
I'll have to investigate further, but maybe I'll leave that up to you.
Okay, all right.
What other questions you have over there, Chris?
Well, I want to know how it came to be that Neil moved to Sonoma County, and what he finds. He already said it was beautiful here and it's fun, but what brought you to Sonoma County in the first place?
Well, thanks, Chris. So having started with a small company from my first job in Cork and thinking, wow, Cork, what am I doing? And this is amazing. I didn't realize there were so many corks in the world, and of course there are, right? So I would travel regularly to Napa and Sonoma and to other territories to sell and to wineries, and I fell in love with Sonoma County. I just found it was very laid back, a beautiful scenery, undulating hills. I felt there was lots of little narrow roads, and around every corner there was another secret, and really just fell in love. And when I had the opportunity to start my own business, I said, you know what? I looked at different areas and eventually realized, hey, Sonoma County in Santa Rosa, I found a warehouse, and we were able to rent that warehouse, and moved my family in 2001 up to Santa Rosa and haven't looked back. It's an amazing place, a great place to be centrical for Napa Sonoma wine countries, which is a large part of our business, and just in the environment where we are today, for example in Hillsburg, it's a beautiful spot. So
I love that description of you said how did you describe it just now? You said the secret you come across little.
Yeah, every corner you
I
go
love
around, there's
that.
another little secret around the corner, and especially as you're discovering Sonoma County, whether you're on a road out to the ocean, whether you're going up north to Mendocino, whether you're cutting across to the Napa Valley. When you take a different road, you just never know what's around the next corner, and it's usually a breathtaking view of a vineyard or a mountain, or it's just so picturesque. So it's a beautiful spot.
Yeah, we're in God's country.
We are,
Here's
for sure.
to that.
Here's
My
to
gosh,
you, Susie.
Chris, do you have a glass over there?
I do.
Cheers.
Chris.
So I have a question.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Does examining the cork, either by smelling, squeezing, looking, tell us anything about the wine that's involved?
No, the cork is really.
Restate my question.
Hey, I've been showing off, Neil. I've been faking it. Trying to
So
impress
the
people.
question is, does the cork, whether we smell it or look at it or just look at the cork or smell it, taste it, is that telling us anything about the wine? Well, as a professional, I can smell it and say it did its job. It was a neutral partner with the wine. It held the wine in the bottle. It's clean. It didn't impart any aromas or flavors into that wine. It allowed it to age to the time that we opened it, and it became the neutral partner in the existence of that wine. And so can't really tell from the cork whether the wine is good or not, but I can tell whether it did a good job.
And another question I get occasionally is how often, for very expensive wine, how often should that bottle be recorked?
That's a good question. Rarely in my career has anybody ever come to me and asked to have their bottles recorked. So it can happen. I've had some people approach me to ask for there are services that do recork bottles. It's rarely used. A lot of the older bottles, if they're cellared correctly and have a good quality closure originally, they can be cellared for longevity. However, some of the old port wines, for example, that are really going on for extended lifetime, some companies do look to have those recorked.
Okay, because I hear about it. I certainly.
Yeah, it's rare. I don't have a lot of experience in hearing of people, especially here in the United States, of recorking wines. But on and off, we do hear occasionally that they come to us. So
So I have another question. If you, this
All
is
right.
a tough one because people have asked me this before. Do you have a favorite bottle of wine that you've had? I mean, is there like a producer, and it probably stood out to you because you had a fabulous moment at the same time?
that's a great question, Susie. And Selby Sauvignon Blanc. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Susie Selby, 2018 Sauvignon Blanc, Sonoma County, the best wine in the world. Thank you very much, ladies and
Oh my
gentlemen.
gosh, the best guest ever.
No,
Sweet.
so I always say I've been very fortunate to drink a lot of high quality wines around the world and been spoilt on many a different occasion. And people often ask me that question, and it's
I get
such
asked
an interesting question. I've had so many amazing different wines, and I have to say my favorite wine is always the one that's right in front of me that I'm drinking and enjoying at that time.
No,
because-
I remember you saying that once. Now that I think about that.
Yeah, it's the one we have right in front of us, and the company we have, and what we get to enjoy, and it really is that. And sometimes we have to just enjoy wine for what it is, and not be overly selective on how we
Agreed.
choose the wine for the occasion, and because every wine has something to offer and to be enjoyed. So it's nice to be able to just enjoy what's in front of you. And also, you know, if you decide to pair wines with food, then choose different wines for food, experiment. That's the beauty of wine, and never stop learning. It's an amazing product. So
Well, I know you and Chris are neighbors, so I'm sure
We
you
are.
had enjoyed many bottles of wine together.
we have.
And
Aaron
you-
Carla have a question.
Yes.
They say we understand that bottles get judged unfairly sometimes because they are quote tainted, and the cork gets a bad rap sometimes. But if it does happen that it exists in one cork, does that mean that the whole tree was infected, or is it just likely that one cork?
That is a great question. So cork taint is typically isolated. So it can be a certain portion of that particular piece of cork wood that is only the contaminated part. So I'll address that really quickly because I'm sure there's other viewers that would like to understand a little bit about cork
Yeah,
taint and
very much so.
TCA and what does taint mean. So 2,4,6-trichloroanisole, the chemical compound, which is known as cork taint. If I talked to you 15, 20 years ago, we would have a lot more incidence of cork taint than we do today. In fact, the introduction of some of these alternative closures allowed the cork industry to wake up and say, wow, I think we really do have
Better be careful.
some major problems. So the cork industry invested a huge amount of money in technology and investments and considerably cleaned up the way in which we handle cork, the way in which we understand cork, the amount of testing we do in the forest today, the amount of technology that's used in the processing. And so the cork that we buy today is far more advanced than we used to 10, 15 years ago. So the incidence of cork taint is far, far much lower than it ever was.
Oh, absolutely.
And so you may come across the occasional corked or tainted bottle in a normal average price wine, but you shouldn't come across very many corked bottles in your drinking normal day-to-day wines. And so it's rare that, the question I think was, does it mean the whole cork is tainted? No, it doesn't. It could just be the bottom of the cork, the cork tree, where it was in contact with the soil, or it could be where it had
that's
maybe
interesting.
some increased moisture levels and created some contamination. There could be a number of different reasons why.
Usually an
Isolated incidents, yeah. Yeah, I
That's-
hope that answers your question.
Well, that was Carl and Brendan's question, but I would say
Thank you,
my
Carl and Brendan.
experience is that mostly storage issues are the reasons that people have difficulties with their wine, and the corks usually get a bad rap.
Yeah, there are many different challenges with wines, from oxidation to other chemical defects that can happen in wine. Cork can be called the culprit many times, as it's the last
Well,
thing that
if
came into
somebody
contact.
doesn't like my wine, I say it must be the cork. Every time. It's not me.
Touche.
It's not me, it's him.
Exactly. So, but no, cork has to take some responsibility. Fortunately, we address those responsibilities as much as we can and are limiting the amount of wines that are spoiled from using natural cork. So I hope that answers your question.
No, that's people do ask that quite a bit.
Absolutely, and they should.
Yeah, so again, if the wine tastes bad,
Yeah.
it must be the cork. Although, quite honestly, Neil, it's extreme since I started using your corks, which has been many years now. When I transitioned to MA Silva, I was using corks from other companies, and I do not have problems with your corks.
Well, thank
And
you very much.
I
That's
mean,
good to
it's
hear.
amazing.
Thank
And
you.
they're beautiful. I mean, it's really interesting. It's not a cork is not a cork. They texturally are different, and you've just got a really sexy cork. I mean, it's beautiful.
Why, Susie?
No. I'm
Is she hitting on me?
no, but
Is
I
she
don't.
hitting on me? What does the audience say?
Yeah, send in your vote.
Oh wait, hold on a
Send
second.
in your
It's light
vote.
up here. It's light
No,
up.
you too, though. It's just, I mean, it's a beautiful cork. It's amazing.
Well, thank
and
you.
I don't know why it must be the manufacturing process, because they're just usually not as like silky in texture.
Well, I don't know in particular perhaps what you're referring to specifically, as we don't have time to look necessarily, but there's a lot of technology, a lot of time, a lot of effort that goes into making sure that we deliver high quality products. So it's really always nice, obviously, to hear a customer tell us that they're very happy with the performance, and
Well,
I'm hoping that all of your
aesthetically.
customers and people that buy wine through the tasting room or online or through through these channels that you're using currently, which is great, that they get to experience that and realize that there's a lot. You also don't skimp on what you spend on your bottles and your corks. You always look for the best. You also you look at high quality packaging. So I think that makes a difference, that your consumer is getting not only a high quality wine, but the packaging and things that you use lends to that quality. So
Well, and the cork is sort of the first impression. There's the packaging, of course. I love the fact, so the three of us are here, and in all three of our industries, I'm making it, Chris is growing it,
Yeah.
you're doing the
Bottling it, yeah.
final packaging here, and it's amazing how independently it's so labor intensive. Like, think of all the people collectively who are, bottling it, farming, in vineyards, harvesting the cork. I mean, the wine industry is still such a manual labor, and it's crazy when you think of the number of people who literally have touched a bottle of wine. If you just look at the cork alone, much less the harvesting. It's a crazy concept.
It's really interesting that as you were saying that, I was reflecting and saying to myself, if you could bottle up the passion that goes from the guy who is harvesting the corkwood to the people that are working with the corkwood, that are artisanal, they're manual labor and taking care to make sure they take advantage of the raw material of the corkwood and touching it and that understanding, and then going beyond that to the grapes and the winery workers and the care that goes into making the wine, but before that in the harvesting of the grapes and Chris's team and everything. So if you could take all of the passion and love and everything else that's involved in those people that bring these products together to make the bottle of wine, that would be an amazing thing, because in my industry, I know in the wine industry, in the vineyard, if you could bottle that and people could hear it and see it and feel it, which they do get those experiences when they visit the tasting room or the vineyard and get that experience, it's amazing.
That it's true, and also, Chris, you would agree with the passion runs deep. The people who are, I mean, everybody's proud of what they're doing in this industry.
I think you have to be to deliver a high quality product, so the emphasis is, it's a high quality product, the end product. I have to perform, I have to do really well. Chris, in order to get this high quality product, has to make sure that everything's right in the vineyard initially. And so you have to be passionate about what you do. And so I'm very passionate about making sure that each and every cork, as much as I can, is delivering satisfaction, as you are with every bottle of wine you produce. So it's pretty cool.
Well, I think it would be fun for us to go to your manufacturing facility.
Yeah, that'd be
and,
great.
Get a little tour live on Facebook. Chris, would you like to be
let's
our
bring Chris
color
along too.
commentator?
Yeah, if your fans on Facebook and Instagram would like to do a walk through the cork company, I'd love to have you. We could do a
That would be fun.
we could go on the cork journey, at least from we could show a little video maybe of the cork production, but then after that we can go on how we customize the cork and the testing we do and really what goes into it, because I think when people see that, friends that I've taken or people I've taken to that are outside of the wine industry or don't have that experience hands-on, they're always amazed at what it takes to deliver that product to the table. So
Well, yes, and then all of us who are here right now, when things open up, then we can go actually visit the cork forest.
there we go. I like that.
That's the way to go.
Absolutely.
Well, that would be fun. I would love that.
Yeah, me too.
And Neil has promised to come back, because we only talked about corks because he's the cork lord. But we want to talk about glass, because that's a whole other interesting aspect of the wine industry, of course, packaging in general. And Chris is going to be in the vineyards this week talking about grapes. So we've got a lot of fun things going on.
Excellent. Well, a lot to talk about, I'm sure.
Do you have any other closing comments besides?
No, I don't think so. We started, I'd love to talk more about our wine bottles at some point. We started in that business in 2010 and import wine bottles and manufacture and distribute to the wine industry, all different sizes and colors and everything else.
You just started doing bottles in glass
2010,
yeah.
So 10 years now. So it's a 10-year anniversary coming up. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Are you doing something for your 20th this year?
Probably. It'll be determined whether we're at home doing it or.
Well, of course there'll be a party, right?
Yeah. So hopefully we'll do something. Whether
Wherever
we'll
we
6
go is
feet
a party.
apart or a little closer, well, that'll be determined, right? So hopefully, we're praying that we are able to get together and celebrate that milestone. It's been an interesting journey and a great journey, and it's been one that I'm very proud of, and the people that have been on that journey with me over the years to build what we've built today. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having many of our winery customers that have been with me since the beginning, and those that have come along join us in that celebration, because it'll be for the next 20 as well. So I think you really have to celebrate those milestones, and what better than wine and And,
That's right.
And Selby Sauvignon Blanc.
That's right. We'll have a.
This is delicious. I'm really enjoying this.
And,
So,
and you
cheers.
know, he's thank you. Thank you.
I'm
appreciate that.
promoting the wine, obviously, but I'm sitting here drinking it and realizing how much I enjoy it. It's very refreshing, very light on the palate, just very easy, approachable, drinkable wine. Congratulations.
Oh,
I
thank
really
you,
like
Neil.
it.
I
Cheers.
appreciate that. Well, cheers to you. And
To you.
I think we're wrapping it up right now. Are there any other comments? I do want to say one thing because I can speak for a large group of people in the wine industry when I say this. We all appreciate how generous and kind you are to the winemakers and the wineries and the vineyard people. I mean, you have just an amazing reputation for making sure that you're keeping your customers and your wineries happy, and it's you know, I've nothing but compliments from all the winemakers who know you. So we all appreciate it very much.
Well, Susie, that's very nice of you to say that. Thank you very much. I didn't expect you to say that, but that's very kind
No,
of you.
it's
Thank you.
absolutely true.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate
Okay,
that.
so we will be back next Wednesday, and I might be able to talk Chris into being our commentator again, our color commentator. But in the meantime,
Good on you, buddy.
stay healthy, stay safe, and follow the rules.